Welcome to the Cap Planner podcast, where we dive into the dynamic world of private capital markets. Whether you're new to private market investing or a seasoned professional, this podcast unpacks the latest trends, insights, and opportunities shaping the industry. Featuring expert guests and deep discussions, Cap Planner is your go-to resource for staying informed and inspired. Hi, Jody. Happy Monday.
Hi, Morgan. How is my pregnant daughter feeling?
Right now, I'm feeling pretty good considering I just snarfed down a homemade peanut butter cup. So that's a win.
Was it like some version of a healthy peanut butter cup or?
Because I like to consume enough sugar and sweets that when I try to have the rule for myself, I can have it, but then I need to make it myself. And then if I can make something on the healthier side, then I will. So these had like coconut sugar and dark
I think that's
chocolate.
bullshit, by the way, because I bought a Butterfinger the other day at the drugstore and I ate it. And I don't think it would have mattered if it was made with coconut sugar or whatever. Like, I think you should just eat what you want and get out of your system. And you just can't do it all the time. Everything in moderation.
I don't have moderation with the sugar. So because
Okay.
I do not have any moderation in this area of my life, I have to err on the side of like homemade and healthier when I can. Because I don't want to moderate it. I don't want to have it one Butterfinger a week. I want 2 peanut butter cookies a day.
Yeah, that's the problem when you eat eating the sugar begets the sugar. I have that same problem when I drink champagne. Like if it were possible on a regular basis to just have one glass, I might do it. But after I have the first glass, I say to myself, I really enjoy this. I would like another glass. I'm able to stop after 2, but one just does not seem really worth it.
You don't want just one. No, I can
Yep.
understand that. Did you watch the Olympics over the weekend, the men's hockey game in particular?
So amazing. I actually just texted you today. Did you see the picture of the guy
I
with his
did.
tooth knocked out?
Jack Hughes. I think it's pretty funny. St. Louis is such a hockey town because of the St. Louis Blues. And before the games, all of the men are on the ice stretching. And their stretches are very special looking. Like their legs are spread out and they're like pressing on the ground. And it's
There's a
like,
lot of padding also, it's probably very trickier than they make it look.
right. But basically, like when you go to the hockey games early, there's a lot of single women around and not a
Yeah,
lot
they're
of
checking
men
out just
because
a
the
wet
women are
sweat.
like, right. But I did think it's funny because Heated Rivalry, that TV show, which I really was on the fence about watching, but
I haven't watched it.
it's about hockey and it's about a
I
same
have 2
sex.
gay guys, and I hear it's very prolific.
There's a lot of dick.
Oh,
There is.
I know,
There
but yet
is.
you yeah.
There
And so
is.
how
There's a
did you
lot.
enjoy it? Okay. Did you enjoy
You know
that?
what? I'm not you know what? Enjoy it, not enjoy it, like, it's a fun show to watch, and it's based on books, and the books did really
I'm gonna
well,
watch it now,
but
you've intrigued me.
it's HBO, like, it's Sex and
Yeah.
the City, like,
I've been
HBO
watching
is
on the other hand, I've been watching Victoria, which I've thoroughly enjoyed because, she had 9 children. And it shows
yeah,
what a strong woman, even, dating back, that there were challenges and she had the role as the mom and then how she was as a wife. And but like divorce was not prevalent, but there were times, where they locked each other out of the room and a little bit of that volatility, which of course is something that I'm more prone to. So I really
yeah,
appreciated that.
yeah, I think, obviously, I don't have a child yet, but there's a lot of conversations about I'm just in general, and I'm looking more pregnant now, like, it's harder to kinda hide it, but I get
Are
asked a
people
lot from
asking you
people.
questions?
They're asking me if I know what I'm having
Strangers,
and what I'm
perfect
right, just
strangers are asking you.
perfect strangers are asking, and the biggest one is, like, people ask, "Do you know what you're having? Like, have you found out the gender?" And it's really polarizing because, of course, like, anybody who asks you things about one girlfriend told me when I got pregnant, she was like, "Welcome to the world where people give you random people give you
Unsolicited
unsolicited
business.
advice
Yeah. I
about
love
being
that.
pregnant and
I've given
raising
people
kids."
unsolicited advice on things like this too. I do
Yes.
that even if they're not pregnant, but
Yes.
if you're pregnant,
Yes.
you really have a bullseye on your belly.
Correct. So, I was on the call with somebody and he's talking, like we're catching up or whatever it is. His wife is pregnant with the second. They did not find out the gender of the baby either time. And he's like, "I think it's the last good surprise." Like, no, there really are such little opportunities left where somebody truly can be surprised. And
Yes.
I knew, given who my husband was, like, that absolutely there was no chance in hell that we did not find out the gender of the baby because Mr. Overprepared over here.
I could tell the gender of the baby just from looking at you.
Yeah, but you didn't know the gender of what I was. Only Gail knew.
Right, my mom. That's true, but I could tell from looking at you, of you being my daughter, I knew right away, and I
Yeah.
was right. That's like the card that I always give to my mother, this if at first you don't succeed, do it the way your mother told you to do it in the first place, and there are times where mama just knows.
Well, I think that brings us to who our guest is today. So, Katie Jacob Stanton is the founder and general partner of Moxxie Ventures. And she started Moxxie because she loves working with founders who are living in the future. And Moxxie is really focused on early stage seed and Series A investing across the global private capital markets.
Not to mention the word moxie is a perfect segue because we're talking about all the strength of women and the sort of female power, and that's inherent in their name.
So, welcome, Katie.
Hi, Morgan. Hi, Jody.
Hi, Katie. So glad to have you on. I know that you have just come from the dentist, so we will be we're allowed to say that if you have a trouble articulating your words, we know why.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I feel, as I told you before, I feel like a chipmunk a little bit. So, yeah, I don't normally look this puffy, but here we are.
We could just think of it as a good like dose of filler, right? I mean, I just noticing that on our podcast that I can see the age hitting in a little bit, but it's all right. What are you going to do?
You look amazing.
That's what I
Thank you.
say. She tells me on the phone, "I'm aging." And I go, "Well,
I see
technically,
it.
we're all
We all
aging
are.
every day." Like, but I was like, "But you have to stop because if I looked half as good as you look at your age, I will be thrilled."
No, and aging
So,
is in this modern world, especially when you're healthy, is a privilege. So I feel
Absolutely.
like that we have to remember. And here we sit. And Katie, I'm not sure that you know, but Morgan is pregnant with a girl. So I feel,
Congrats.
yeah,
thank
it's we
you.
sit here with all women and knowing that there's another one baking in the oven there. So it's there's a lot of things to be thankful for, and we shouldn't be complaining about the fact that we're aging. It's nice to be able to be here.
I've
Better
given
than the
up
alternative.
on I have given up on asking Jody to stop telling everybody because it's just words in the air at this point because I'll be on the phone with her and she's in the grocery store and she's like, sorry, I have to take this phone call because my daughter's in the and she's pregnant with my first grandchild and it's a girl and she's due in July." And I'm like, "For the love of God."
Well, I
Every
will
single
say,
person.
and then we'll segue in, but during the JP Morgan Healthcare Conference, Katie, are you in San Francisco?
Not today. I'm actually dialing in from Boulder, Colorado.
Right, but you get to SF or
Yes.
you're there
Yeah,
frequently,
there
so
all
we
the
went
time.
to Spruce to get cookies, which are like, that's their thing, and there were 3 guys ahead of me in line, and clearly they had all been there for the healthcare conference. They had come from some bougie dinner, and Morgan and I had the Uber make a stop on the way back to our hotel, and I came in, I was like, "Listen, guys, I know that you're here for the conference, and you probably had your fabulous dinner, but I've got a pregnant daughter in the car, and we are waiting on cookies." And when they went to check out, they bought one of each kind and gave them to me for Morgan. So there are certain advantages.
For sure. I'm going to Spruce in a couple of weeks, so I am very excited about getting some of those cookies.
Oatmeal raisin. I vote oatmeal raisin. All
Yeah.
right. Well, Katie, fill us in. Moxie Ventures. I love that if it says it takes a little bit of moxie. So how did you come up with this?
So it happened pretty organically. I had worked in Silicon Valley for about 20 years and working a number of tech companies and really had the privilege of starting to angel invest on the side. And there were two things that happened that were pretty meaningful. One was I had a group of girlfriends who loved to angel invest, and we pooled our networks together and our deal flow together and just started to become better angel investors ourselves and called ourselves hashtag angels. And the second thing was I was very lucky that one of our board members at Twitter, Bijan Sabet, invited me to be a scout. And a scout meaning I could invest in any company that I thought would be meaningful and help send that deal flow to Spark Capital. And that was, a really great way for me to, have access to capital, access to mentorship. Angel investing is a very expensive hobby. And after doing that a number of times, realized like I loved investing. I loved investing in early stage founders. I love finding them, supporting them, finding ways to help them navigate through, building. And I also felt that venture was ready to be a bit more modernized. It wasn't, necessarily just, people who are former bankers or consultants, but people who had actually been builders and operators and scalers and wanted to do something a little bit different. So started Moxxie in 2019. Came up with the name Moxie because Moxie means courage. It is really hard to start something. It's really hard and vulnerable to kind of put your name out there, to put yourself out there.
Listen,
And
I wore a T-shirt to bed for, I don't know, Morgan, how many years that said, "Don't let fear stop you." So Morgan and her brother were 6 months old and 2.5. And when I started the business, and I really just like had to look myself in the mirror every night and say, look at that T-shirt and make sure that I stayed focused.
Yeah.
totally like, yeah, like it is really, really important. Life is about taking those courageous choices, right? And those are the things that we tend to, have the biggest rewards. And then the last thing about Moxie, we did the double X for the female chromosome and just trying to, get more women into this venture ecosystem.
Jody and I talked about this beforehand because we track gender compensation data for both on the private company side and then also on the investment firm side. So, from a data perspective, it's not necessarily that women are making less than their male counterparts. They are at the higher percentiles, but what stands out the most is just the sheer lack of women compared to men when it comes to especially the managing general partner role. And so, with that being said, when you had the courage, we'll stick on on your word of it, the courage to start Moxie, where did you see that gap of where venture needed to be modernized, and how does Moxie fill that gap?
So one of the things that we did at Hashtag Angels was trying to better understand what is the pay gap and the equity gap. And no one knows this better than you two. You've been in this business measuring this, so you can fill in the data blanks that I have. But my recollection of some of the studies that we did was something like only 9% of equity went towards female founders, female operators, female investors. We knew the pay gap was bad, but we had no idea how big the equity gap was.
Yeah, I mean, we still track this now. We've had gender in our data for 20 years, and we had gender data when no one wanted ever even to look at it. And we do see that at the median levels, men and women track, but at the 75th percentiles and at the higher levels, even at the max numbers, women do not track because you can see their hesitation to push.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, and I saw this as a female manager, I would, manage, both men and women, and my male team members would always negotiate and really push for pay. And generally speaking, a lot of my female managers didn't. And that would always be my piece of advice, like push harder, get paid more, get paid fairly. Um,
Right.
so, it's just something that needs a lot of work. We need to make a lot of progress here. And I think it's really hard to change things from the inside. I think there are a lot of good people trying to make change from, the inside, joining these institutions and trying to really push for, pay equity. But sometimes you just need to kind of blow it up and start fresh. And that's one of the things that I was excited to do, at least with Moxie. Like, how can we build a more modern venture firm and making sure that we're just much more mindful and aware and proactive about doing the best that we can and making a positive impact wherever we may see fit.
You have a very impressive list of portfolio companies in the sense that they're all different, but they all seem to have this common thread. And going back to your roots as an operator, it seems like that is part of the special sauce of how you work with companies is that you have a different perspective from actually being at the companies. So when you're investing in these companies or founders come to you, I mean, obviously you have a deal team, so you're sourcing, but
Right.
what is something that you look for the most when you're investing in companies?
Ultimately, it's up to the founder, right? And you have to get a lot of things right. You have to find the right founder who's building the right product in a really big market at the right time. But those things aren't necessarily equally weighted. So, the founder really is first and foremost. Do they have the technical acumen and ability? Do they have a unique insight? do they have the right to win? Like, do they really understand this problem that they're hoping to solve? Can they attract a great team? Can they sell to a great customer? Can they tell an awesome story? I mean, there's like a laundry list of
It
It all
things.
is.
does come down to the founder, though. We hear this over and over and over that it is the teams, it is the founder, and you'd rather have a founder with a good idea or a great idea than somebody with an amazing idea who is not compelling.
1,000%.
Yeah.
And there are a couple of traits and properties that, that have really stood out to us that might be a little bit more unique. I mean, I would say generally speaking, our immigrant founders overperform. There's not a plan B. If this company fails, we lose visas. We can't like ask our parents. Like there are all these other things. And, I think immigrants who've already had the courage to leave their country, to learn a new language, to figure out immigration, to do all these things, that's really hard. They've already overcome hard things. So I think, immigrants tend to outperform. I think outsiders also tend to outperform. It may be, outsiders, the system, economically in the United States coming from different parts of the country. We have one founder, she comes from very modest upbringing in Kansas. Her dad's a cop and her mom is a teacher. And she's just a winner. Like she knows what winning looks like. She excelled in high school, got full rides at college, becomes valedictorian in college, gets full rides
Yeah.
to law school, goes to Harvard Law on full scholarship. Her name is Logan Brown at Sox and AI. Like, watch this woman. Like, she's a
Right.
winner. And
And you
so
saw
finding
this.
people like that.
Morgan was at breakfast in St. Louis with her husband, and they were talking to people next to them. And the woman was talking, and I don't want to share her specific details, but Morgan left the breakfast and she's like, I think that woman is a winner. And sure as shit, she had been on an Olympic team and she had had a position on the team and won gold medal. And Morgan could just smell it. Like she knew when you're in this industry, you can tell people, as Serena Williams says, who don't play to compete, they play to win.
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
like
love that.
and finding people like who know like they have a hunger for winning, or they
Yeah,
have a
yeah.
chip on their shoulder, or they know what excellence looks like. Maybe they were early at Stripe, or they were early at OpenAI, or they were early at Google. Like, people who know what winning looks like, who know what excellence looks like, who, know how to build great teams win. And so that's really, really important at the earliest of stages.
Yeah, and I think the timing piece, which you touched on a little bit, is part of it too, where you can't that is the one part that you really can't control, but having the right idea at the right time and then being able to execute it, that's really where the winning comes in and that greatness comes in. And I think frankly, it separates the winners from, I don't wanna say losers, but that
Losers,
is
but
really it is kind of the defining line because you have to be able to execute. And that's really where, I mean, Jody and I are both very avid in terms of fitness, and I'm guessing from you sitting in Boulder that you are not uninterested in the exercise world, and it's something where right? You have the green smoothie in hand for somebody who's
yeah.
not watching the video, but I see this a lot where I grew up playing water polo and swimming, and when it was before the game and you were getting into the pool, it was like this athlete mentality where you were like, "Let's go. Let's go. Let's win." Like, I'm not here to paddle around for an hour. I am here to put points on the board and walk away with a win. And I love that with founders in particular and in the startup world, and also with the venture capitalists like you, because you're not in there to be indifferent. So, I guess with that being said, I want to ask you a question, especially somebody in this space. What is your take on the AI bubble and all of these AI companies? What is your take on it? Do you think there is a bubble?
Probably. But but I think it's really exciting. I mean, is there an AI bubble? Yeah, probably, but it's uneven, right? So I think we are in this binary market, and a lot of the capital, the attention, the hype has been like thrown into a number of companies, right? Like, we have these clear winners with OpenAI and Anthropic and Thinking Machines and all these evolving companies and all these new labs. But there are a lot of, other companies, particularly in like vertical applications in AI, that are solving real, real problems. So, for example, in legal, in healthcare,
Right.
things that a
And
generalist.
critical. They're keeping things going in ways that are so much less discussed, but they will. Those are the sort of the slow and the steady.
Exactly. So, I mean, it is an exciting time to invest. It is a noisy time to invest, and to build. And so, we're seeing a lot of great teams. I think what really differentiates, and is less of a bubble are the teams that have a very specific understanding of the problem that they're solving. And again, having the right to win and the right to be in that market. So, for example, these AI applications in healthcare, it takes people that are not just technical and know how to build an AI product, but people who fundamentally understand how the healthcare system works and how it's flawed, and can go to healthcare systems and sell that story
Yeah.
and have the credibility for that.
We have an advisor that we work closely with. Actually, he's been on our podcast, and also Hallie Tecco, who started
I love
Rockwell.
Hallie.
Yeah, you talk a lot about like the way her approach in because she said that she was angel investing, and then she soon realized that to be an angel investor is a little tricky because you don't get paid while you don't have actual income while you're doing this, and that she wants to be doing. That's why she's gone into more venture investing. And it sounds like you two have a similar mindset on this, but we see this all the time with the convergence of healthcare and the AI and really technology. We work in biotech and then we work in tech bio. And I think the convergence of all of this, which is why when we look at compensation for jobs, we used to really focus more on industry, but it's less focused on industry because many jobs are competitive across multiple disciplines. And it's more so about what's the stage of the company. And true to what you're saying, there are companies who go from having no capital, all of a sudden they've raised $100 million, and that's their Series A.
Yeah, I mean, like, the numbers are staggering, and, sometimes there's not even rhyme or reason in this, but at some point things will shake out.
Yeah.
And I think we'll find these companies that, are durable, they have a differentiated moat, they're meaningful, they're sustainable, all these things. So again, like it's very exciting. It's awesome. Maybe I'll just a little side thing that there are so many great people in venture, like Hallie, like people who, have excellent experience, they have high integrity, they have a unique position, and they're solving really hard problems. And so one of the things that I love about pre-seed and seed are finding people like Hallie that are just wonderful to co-invest with.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
doing it their own way, which is what we really love. Well, I'm interested to know a little bit more about you as a woman doing all of this. And I do know we read that you have children and you have stepchildren. So you are sort of the superwoman because you've done it all. And how did and Hallie's another one too, right? She's living in the UK and husband and child. But how have you successfully done that? Where were you like you knew that you weren't going to sacrifice your personal life and the two needed to come together?
Yeah, I mean, this whole like debate about work-life balance, there's no balance, it's just like you just do the best that you can. It's the Arthur Ashe quote, something that, you start where you are, you use what you have, what you do what you can. And every day is a new day to begin again. And, you as a mom and Morgan, you as a, soon to be mom, like
Intending. Right.
there's nothing more important in life than being a parent. It is the greatest love, it is the greatest privilege, it is the greatest joy. But I think, for all of us and probably a lot of your, listeners, like, we're multifaceted humans and we love to work, and work is a really important part. And so, I've always worked. I love to work. I, started my first job when I was 12, and, and it's really satisfying to me, but, kids and family and health come first. So, I do have 3 kids and I have 3 stepkids. So, we joke we have 6,
Three kids.
kids under management, and, 0 DPI. 0 and, but, 3 that have exited. My 3 are off the payroll and super proud of them. They all have, jobs and they're on their way. And And it's actually kind of fun now as a VC because, this sort of next generation of products and services and tools, I always send it to, the 6 pack of kids. Like, would you guys use this? Like,
Right. I'd
what
say half the time that there are people who would no longer talk to me because I've aged out, but they do talk to me because of Morgan. So there are times where Morgan's like, they're not going to talk to me. You have to go after it. And then we figure out what's the strategy. Is it the OG strategy where they know me and they're not going to say no? Or is it the next generation, the millennial strategy where I'm like, Morgan, you go because they're not going to say no to you.
Totally, totally. So, that's fun and and it keeps life, big and but it's a lot. Like, I work all the time. I wake up, at 6 and I try to work out and, I go through emails and I do family stuff and, I, conk out at like, 10, and
We love
10 or
we
11.
love that what time people wake up, right, Morgan? We've heard this, like, with Jenny. You know Jenny Felding from Everywhere
Yeah.
Ventures?
Yeah, she's
Yeah,
great.
what time did she say she gets up, Morgan?
Early, early,
Really
early, like
early.
in like the 5 o'clock, 5:30 realm. And Jody was like, "Excuse
I
me?
don't
What
do
do you
that.
mean?"
I have to
No.
drag myself up at 7:30, 8 o'clock. Tough for me, and I still go to sleep, at, like, 10 o'clock at night, but I need the solid 9 to 10 hours of sleep. They'll hit a certain and the
Good
other
for
thing
you.
is that I have to be exhausted because, like what you're saying, I'm so excited about everything going on that for me to actually go to sleep, I have to be dog ass tired. I have to have gone for a swim, walked 10,000 steps, taken a Pilates class, zipped around the grocery store at least once, maybe 2 grocery stores, and, like, been jammed up with work. That's why, as hard as it was when I had kids home, I was even probably more efficient because there were more things thrown into the mix during the day. Like, you give a busy woman something to do, and she will get it done.
100%. Yeah. And, and it takes a village, right? And, and I'm very lucky actually right now. One of my girlfriends came over and she made me breakfast. And
So
actually
nice.
Rachel, you want to say hi? Put her
Yeah,
on.
because you
But
had been to the dentist, so she knew you needed a little TLC.
exactly. So yeah, here's Rachel. So
Hi.
she's amazing. And so she came
What'd you
over.
make
She's
for
like,
breakfast? I wanna
I
know what
know.
she
She's like, I know
had.
you have a dentist appointment. You've got a really busy day. Let me come by. And she
What
made
did
me this
she
like
make?
delicious. She made these vegan tacos that were and full of protein and these protein cookies as a bonus. And then she went for a hike in Boulder with my dog, so I don't have to walk my dog. And my other neighbor, who's a founder, came over this morning with this like big thing of sourdough bread. I was like, I feel very blessed. Like how lucky to have, a community and friends and we have to look out for each other, right? And I do think, venture in particular, but this world at large, like it's heavily transactional. People are always kind of like take, take, take. You have to find the givers, and you collect the givers and you give back to the givers and you create that community.
Well, it has to be a two-way street. That's what I've learned, as Morgan has once said to me. She's had me give her my phone, and she went through my favorites list, and she deleted several people for me. And that's what happens at a certain time in your life. It's like the pyramid, the food chain.
Totally.
And you get to a point where you're like, this person doesn't come inbound, this person doesn't hold up their end, and you got to move it around because you really don't need a lot of people, but you do need, a handful of really good people. And the women that can run, who have range, like you and your girlfriends, we have a lot of respect for that because we know that not everybody has range.
Totally. And it's something, you probably tell your kids the same thing. And Morgan, you will tell your kids much
You can
later.
verify whether I tell you this,
I'm
Morgan.
taking notes for sure.
Take notes. But like, I mean, you reflect the 5 people you spend the most time with, right? And, it's something I talk to my kids about a lot, as they're, choosing their friend group. And, you have to make sure you're surrounding yourself with people who are going to help you be your best and you help them be their best. You don't need 100 of them. You need a couple of them, right? And just it's a constant curation and you'll fall in and out of relationships in life and that happens, but boy, the ones that just like bring you energy like Rachel and food, like you hold on to them with your life.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's I always like the saying that you are a reflection of the 5 people who are closest to you. And that's really when you surround yourself, and I keep thinking in my mind of what you talk about with the winners. When you are one of the when you have people around you who inspire you to be more of a winner and who support you in getting there, that's really where you know when you've hit that oil well, because there's no for other people, I mean, I see this a lot and I feel this is like when you make somebody else feel good, it makes you feel good back in return. When you're uplifting somebody else, and I kid you not, I had like a third grade teacher who was like, you don't have to put out somebody else's flame to make yours burn brighter. And it's so simple, but when you think about it, you're like, it really does hold true the whole way through because it doesn't have to be one or the other. They can both exist. And I think really one of the last questions to wind us up a little bit here is you started your firm in 2019, right before COVID, which has obviously been a very, you didn't have long before a pandemic hit. And we know that 2021 was an anomaly in terms of the year of what was going on in private capital markets. So you kind of been through already a little bit of an up and then a down. And so where do you see the market now and what's next for you and then for Moxxie Ventures?
Yeah, starting a venture fund in early stage at 2019 was very, very hard. The pandemic was, a punch in the face for everybody, and for many reasons, of course. But it was a really difficult time, and so a lot of learnings. I do think now, I mean, markets are always you always think in the moment, like, this market's crazy, this market's weird. It's definitely weird now, but I'm optimistic. I am so excited about, the next generation of founders and even investors and where Moxie is today. I think for us specifically, we're at cruising altitude. We have a team, we have 4 investors on the team. Everybody's an operator. Everybody else on the team is a really talented engineer. My partner, Alex, is, the smartest person in the room that never acts like it. He can super simplify really hard problems, especially when they're deeply technical. And so, he is a tremendous partner to me. And we have 2 other founders on the team, or sorry, 2 other investors on the team who are former founders and engineers. So I think that really helps differentiate us as a team, as an operating team, a deeply technical team to both like source and support the founders that we back. And I think the types of founders that we're seeing are truly extraordinary. I mean, they are determined. They are very, very smart. They are persistent. They have moxie, right? They have all this courage to build something that's going to help improve healthcare, that's going to make access to home ownership more affordable, going to make legal services easier, that are going to help farmers better protect their crops and be able to scale, to help people find better caregivers. We have a caregiving crisis in this country where 1 out of 4 of us are going to have to take care or already taking care of a loved one. We have too few young people and too many old people. And so we have a company that's trying to make that easier to find and match make with healthcare. So, our founders inspire us and our LPs inspire us. We are very lucky to be backed by the Nature Conservancy, Southern Poverty Law Center, and a bunch of other nonprofits and universities. And so returning capital for all these, amazing LPs and worthy organization really inspires us too.
What's the to impart wisdom to Morgan, because you talk about the generations, what's an experience that sticks out in your mind with your kids that where you were also in a work situation or something was going on that just humbled you down to your knees? Anything that you can remember?
There are a lot. I I think, one of the things, when I was early at Google, and I had 3 kids under 2, and that was really hard. And I'd go to work, and Susan Wojcicki was my first boss. And Google started in her garage. And Susan passed away very sadly about a year and a half ago. And she was the most amazing woman. I remember telling her, like, I have to leave at 5 because I have to pick my kids up at daycare, and it's like $1 a minute. And she was like, do that. And I was so lucky to have her. But then I would go pick the kids up and then take them to Google for dinner because I didn't have time to cook and we had free dinner. And I was like, I can knock out a bunch of meetings at the same time. And my kids just kind of got used to, like, that was just what we did. Like, that was my work-life balance. Like, we'd all come to work, and Google was great about letting my kids eat there too. So that was a very privileged, I understand that's a very privileged, situation, but I think finding those ways to kind of, weave in and again, do what you can. That's probably one of, the biggest memories. And to this day, my kids will just say like one of their favorite childhood memories is eating at Google.
I
Not
remember
that
once when Morgan's brother was standing at the front door and I was like, "What are you doing at the front door?" And he was little and he said, "I'm waiting for dinner." And I was like, "Oh my God, he's not in the kitchen. He's at the front door." My mother would have killed me, but that was basically all I had to offer him was that at least there was food, right? So
exactly. No one starved.
yeah, no one starved. Well, so great to have you on. Thank you. Thanks to your
Thank
friend
you.
for supporting us, the whole team. And we'll look forward to staying in touch and we'll see what happens at Moxie Ventures this coming year.
Thank you so much for having me.